Hey guys, it's John and Jackie of OpenLove101.com, and today I want to talk about the number one antidote for fear.
Ooh, you've piqued my interest.
It's preparation.
Oh, that sounds easy enough.
It is pretty simple, but it definitely takes conversation between the couple and to try and pinpoint what the fear is, and then once you've pinpointed it, you find ways to overcome that fear. So you're essentially preparing for the fear if it were to happen.
Oh, okay.
So if we're in a situation where we're going to hang out with a couple for the first time and you're worried, I mean, you know them, you've met them, and you're worried about how her and I are going to be kissing, then we can talk about that.
Right.
And you can essentially set a boundary that will keep it from happening, keeping that fear from arising, or you can envision what it's going to be like together and try and see if the fear arises with those, with that role playing or with that really closing your eyes and thinking about what it's going to be like.
Yeah.
And if the fear arises, then we need to talk about it some more.
Right. And that it's okay to talk about it.
Yes. And I think that's really the hardest part about preparing for fear, is being so honest with your partner about your fears, the vulnerability, the opening yourself up to who you are inside and why you're feeling these things, this fear, this jealousy is really, really difficult to do. So that's part of the preparation.
Right. Yeah, because we can get caught up in justifying not being honest with our partner because we're like, well, if I say this, they're going to say that. Our ego does a really great job in keeping us nestled in that fear, thinking that it's safer somehow to not be honest with our partner, which is so funny when you think logically about it. Like, how else are you going to know what your partner's feeling unless they have the freedom to tell you? And how are you going to be able to give your partner the opportunity to take in that truth and that honesty if you don't ever give them a chance to do that?
Well, something that happens, I think, with couples is when one person decides to be honest at any time during the relationship or in past relationships, and then they're made to feel bad about feeling that way somehow.
Right.
It may give them pause about being honest.
That's right. Yeah, we can't tell our partner we want them to be honest with us if we're not going to take the honesty.
Yes, so if you tell me something, I want to be honest with you about something you tell me and then I get angry about it,
right,
you're going to have a harder time being honest with me down the road.
Right.
So if that's an issue in your relationship, it's important to talk about that first.
Yeah.
Okay, so this has happened in my past. I was honest with someone because they wanted me to be, and then they became angry about it, and I'm really nervous about being honest about my feelings right now because I'm worried about how you're going to react. So right from the very beginning, you're dealing with fear. And so how to prepare for that fear is by talking to your partner about it before you do it. Right. And then hopefully get some kind of agreement that, okay, I'm just going to listen and we'll talk about it.
And it's so funny when you and I were like preparing to talk about this, when we were talking about like you and I in our relationship, we have the least amount of fear when we're with another couple.
Right. Yes.
Which, what is that?
I don't know, we get questions all the time from our readers and viewers asking us specifically about how do I overcome this jealousy I'm having when we're with another couple and he's with her, or he's jealous when I'm with this other guy, but you're in the same room. And I know for me, I've never felt uncomfortable about you being with anyone else when we're in the same room at all.
I know. I feel the same way. It's interesting to be talking about it, right now, because it's like I had never thought of that before. It's like when you and I find another couple, somehow, I guess for me, there's, I don't know if I want to call it a sense of safety or a place of just I can see you. I can physically see you in the room. And so there's this, I have this sense of, gosh, I don't even know what to call it.
Well, most times the fears that I would have would be when you're not around me. And so I feel like I don't have control of the situation.
Is that what it is, maybe?
Maybe so. So when you're with me in the same room with someone else, you're in complete control of the situation, or at least that's what you're telling yourself, even though you may not be.
Or I'm able to see for myself what's happening.
Yes.
Right?
So you don't have to imagine.
Right, because like when we have those times when we date separately, because John and I, our relationship affords us that opportunity. My reliance of what took place then comes from you.
Mm-hmm.
And in some instances it comes from her as well.
Right.
But being able to absorb the situation from my own view, maybe that's what gives me a sense of assurance. Because I'm there too. I don't have to be involved in what you're doing with that other person. Mm-hmm. But I get to see it, and it's interesting to me, now that we're thinking about it, is I really see the beauty in the interaction that you have with someone else when I'm there.
Right.
When I'm not there, like you said, I have to rely on, maybe my imagination, and then maybe that's when ego creeps in and wants to be like, oh, well, maybe he was looking at her this way, or maybe she was looking at him this way. We can let that run rampant, mm-hmm. and that's when our fear will like grab hold of that, and the next thing we know, or the next thing I know, I'm like, well, maybe you were having way more fun. It's that fear, like you said, and if we're not preparing ahead of time for those things, so that we're not letting our ego or our imagination run wild, where we kind of rein that in and we're like, okay, like let's be real here. He's going on this date, or we're doing something maybe where we're not in the same room. How can we have that same assurance when we're together when we're apart? And like you said, the secret to that is being prepared, mm-hmm. And the trust that we have with our partner as well.
Yes.
And that trust is solidified by our ability to communicate our honest feelings with our partner, which, like you said, is that preparedness.
And so something you had said, and I think this is a situation that happens often with couples in the same room, and that is one person feels as though the other person is having a better time with, you could see me as saying, John's having a better time with her than he does with me. He's right. Enjoying that more with her than he enjoys that with me.
That deficit mentality.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's a fear.
Yeah.
And how can we prepare for that in advance? And I think it's to talking about it.
Yeah.
I would tell you, okay, so it's new.
Right.
And sometimes new things can be more powerful than something that I've done over and over and over again with another person.
Yeah. Not that it's more or less significant.
Not that it's more or less better.
Right. But it's different. And here's the other thing, from my standpoint, if my fear immediately takes me into a deficit mentality where I think, something's more, and so then something has to be less. If I switch it, part of that preparedness could be that compersion that we've talked about in the past, about being happy in John's excitement of something new. Because we want our partner to be excited for us if we get to experience something new. You think about all those times that you've done something new, or you're going to get to do something different, whatever that is, and that excitement that you have. There's nothing more crushing than to have your partner be all fear-based about this great, fun new thing that you're going to get to try, as opposed to when they're just like, I'm so excited for you. Yes, that's going to be great.
Well, and I feel the opposite, actually. If I see you in a situation where you're not having a good time,
yeah,
it can weigh on me.
Right.
I want to see you have a good time.
I know. Well, and that's the other thing that's weird is, the times that I've maybe been fear-based about that, and then you've come home and it hasn't been a good night, then I do feel bad.
You get a little letdown. Right?
Yeah, you're just like, oh. But then what's funny is like your fear, your fear might tell you that, oh, this other thing is going to have too much fun. But then when they come home and they haven't had any fun, and then you feel bad for them, it's like, okay, well now where can we find like a happy balance in this to where I really don't want my partner to feel bad about something, or I feel bad for them that they didn't have an enjoyable time. Am I making sure that I'm coming at this to where I want them to have that enjoyable time? Mm-hmm. And part of that, like you said, is that preparedness.
Yes. So in a situation where we're going with a couple, the thing to do is to talk about beforehand, before we go to a club. We don't even know if we're going to get with a couple or not, but before we go, talk about what could happen.
Yeah.
Talk about, like, if my fear is her having a sex with someone that's better than me, let's talk about it.
Right. What does that look like? What does that mean? What is, because sometimes it's not about really finding a solution to that. It's about being able to get it out of your mouth.
And then once you've done that, then you can begin to accept it. Yeah, Jackie may have a great time with this person because of things that they do different.
Right.
It's important to try and grasp a hold of that before you get in the situation and accept it. That's preparing for the fear, learning how to accept the things that may happen when you're in that situation with unknowns.
Yeah, being excited for them.
Yes, and they may not, it may be just a normal experience, and that's okay too. But it's important for me, if I'm feeling any kind of fear, to talk about it, to maybe think about how I can turn that fear into compersion, happiness for Jackie and what she's going through.
Right.
And it will make the experience for you so much better.
Yeah, and don't forget, this doesn't just apply to your sex life. This can apply to any portion of your relationship. Mm-hmm. It doesn't really make any difference what you're talking about. So it's a good tool to have. Just talk about it. Be prepared. You think about anything else that you do in life, you try to prepare yourself.
Yes.
This shouldn't be any different.
No, it's really simple. Talk about your fears. Talk with your partner. Work together as a team on how to overcome those fears. Yeah, listen, be patient.
Yes.
Yeah.
Be understanding, loving, all those great things.
Yes, and that will mean a good time.
Yeah, regardless.
If you want to read more about fear and jealousy, you can check out our blog at openlevel101.com. Or here on the YouTube channel, you can watch some more videos about the topic. And we have something new we launched recently. It's called Neon. It's a dating app that you can use on your phone. It's on Google and Apple. Search for Neon Dating. And it's a way to meet other open-minded couples and singles in your area. Yep. All right. See ya. Dang, I learned a lot from that video. Subscribe, and you can learn a lot more.